My name is Emma, 32. Last Saturday I drove to my mother's 60th, a pearl necklace on the seat, 2 weeks of salary and hope. The restaurant was the kind where conversations echo, where every word sticks to the walls. I told myself this time would be different. This time she'd see me. I took a breath, smiled, and handed over the box. Her eyes skimmed past me like I was staff, not blood. If you've ever felt invisible at your own family's table, say so below. Because before dessert, she said something that ended our old story. Growing up, Marcus was the sun. I was reflective glare. Straight A's were expected, while his B+ earned ice cream. At valedictorian, Mom praised Marcus for coaching my speech. He played video games while I wrote until sunrise. College, 2 jobs, a 3.8 rent paid in coupons. Mom marveled at Marcus finding himself during a gap year. When I graduated summa cum laude, dinner centered on Marcus's maybe. Maybe he'd apply to community college someday, when inspiration struck. At 28, I bought a small apartment with thrifted furniture. Mom asked why I didn't move closer to help Marcus. She told neighbors my promotion was a family effort, hers included. We barely spoke about work beyond does it pay well? I called every Sunday, organized gatherings, booked tables, confirmed allergies. I usually paid because big city salaries stretch further, dear. Meanwhile, Marcus lived rent-free, late to work, no consequences. His hangovers got phone calls pleading for his old job back. Support began as little favors, then became a monthly obligation. Just until bills stabilize, she'd say, meaning subsidize your brother. I saved with generic groceries, coupons, a 7-year-old car. Approval cost more than pearls. It never cleared the account. At family events, Mom revised history like it paid royalties. Marcus became a sage dispensing wisdom I'd never actually heard. My wins shrank. His ordinary moments swelled into legend. Every story ended with me missing what truly matters. I learned to swallow heat and catalog facts in ink. Dates, phrases, glances, the tilt of love toward one chair. If this sounds familiar, tell me where you're watching from. Sometimes survival is quiet. Sometimes it's learning not to beg. I chose the pearl necklace hoping truth might finally surface. 2 weeks' salary, small box, clasp that clicked like prayer. I told myself people change when milestones force reflection. I told myself mothers soften when candles crowd a cake. And at 60, over dessert, she'd turn the story into a knife. The host led us through chandeliers and hushed conversations. Mom wore royal blue, authority stitched into every seam. I set the gift by her plate, smiled, sat straight. She opened his pharmacy bag first and praised vanilla candles. $12, I thought, and a parade. The table applauded. My velvet box opened slower. Pearls caught the precise light. "Oh, very nice," she said, voice flat as folded linen. Aunt Linda whispered, "Emma, they're gorgeous." Mom's smile tightened. The waiter took drink orders. I studied the wine list. Hope tasted expensive. Disappointment was cheaper. Both hard to swallow. Marcus told a story about HDMI cables at work. Mom laughed like he'd spliced atoms between aisles and end caps. He could sell water in a rainstorm, she declared, glowing. I mentioned a campaign I'd closed. The room kept walking. Sarah met my eyes. Apology folded into a small kindness. Appetizers arrived. Mom revised history for public consumption. Emma's valedictorian speech. Marcus coached the emotional parts, she said. He'd been 14, headphones on, controller glued, door closed. I buttered bread I couldn't taste and cataloged the phrases. Her promotion was a family effort, she told Uncle George. Marcus gave workplace advice about team building, she continued happily. News to me, he'd only asked for quieter calls. I sipped water and wrote minutes of the evening's dishonesty. Cousin Amy asked about the award. Mom waved it off. Participation thing, she said, while 5 names earned it nationwide. 8 months' work shrank into dust under her practiced smile. Ordinary chores became myth. My milestones shrank to footnotes. Faces shifted, concern, pity, polite disbelief, practiced detachment. Marcus studied steak like it contained moral philosophy and mercy. Sarah examined lettuce as if it might offer instructions. I adjusted my napkin and chose restraint over spectacle. A line I'd underlined once echoed, document, don't debate. Pattern before incident. Count lies, count glances, count tilt. I remembered the pearls and the overtime hours they represented. Waiters surfaced with dessert. Candles waiting like witnesses. Mom dabbed her lip, lifted her glass, cleared her throat. The restaurant air leaned in to hear the opening line. Then, over dessert, she sharpened the knife in public. Dessert arrived shimmering. 60 candles waited like spotlights. Waiters sang softly. The dining room settled into attention. Mom rose with her glass, blue silk catching candlelight. She smiled the way queens smile before pronouncements. When I think of family, she began, voice projecting easily, I think of love that shows up without being asked. Marcus has always understood that love is presence, not performance. He calls me every day, listens, remembers, truly cares. Applause flickered, awkward, then faded into the chandeliers. My weekly calls apparently counted as obligations, not love. Mom turned, softened, and sharpened in the same breath. Success without heart is emptiness. Achievement without love is ego. Heat climbed my neck. I kept my hands still. She pressed on, warm tone wrapping cold, polished edges. Emma is very successful. Job, apartment, awards. Nice, very nice. But she schedules family-like meetings and measures feeling in outcomes. Uncle George studied his napkin. Aunt Linda's fork hovered midair. Sarah looked down, then up as if reconsidering gravity. Mom lifted her chin, performing vulnerability for nearby tables. The saddest part is she doesn't know what she's missing. She's busy impressing strangers and forgetting who truly loves her. She sends money instead of love, reservations instead of relationship. Applause did not return. The room held its breath. My heart beat once, hard, then went strangely quiet. Mom set the glass down with careful theatrical precision. And honestly, sweetheart, she said, eyes bright with pity, at this point, you're not even good enough to call family. Cutlery froze. Conversations died. Even the candles seemed stunned. Ice-water clarity flooded where shame used to live. 32 years of patterns snapped into a simple map. This wasn't about my heart. It was about her story. Favoritism disguised as wisdom, rewritten nightly for loyal audiences. Marcus wasn't the oracle. He was a man protected. I wasn't the problem. I was the proof she avoided. Proof that love had terms. Proof that bias wore pearls. Proof that family meant compliance while she held the script. I looked at Mom and finally saw the author. Not a seeker of truth, but a narrator guarding myth. I felt my spine align with something older, steadier. Air moved easier. Words lined up like lit matches. Not rage, resolution. Not tears, choice. Not spectacle, evidence. I reached for my breath and found it waiting. The pearls at her throat flashed once, then stilled. My chair scraped lightly, a sound small as a gavel. I stood into a silence thick as velvet curtains. Faces turned. Even the waitstaff paused mid-pivot, balancing plates. I didn't tremble. I didn't apologize. I didn't shrink. I opened my mouth and stepped into my own voice. Because after her verdict, it was my turn to speak. I didn't raise my voice. I raised the receipts. You tell Mrs. Chen my promotion was a family project. Here's her text repeating your story, right down to adjectives. I laid my phone on the linen like a ledger. You told Mrs. Patterson you helped me buy my apartment. You called it our investment strategy. That's fiction, Mom. You told me buying was stupid and to fund Marcus. Silence shifted chairs. Aunt Linda's wine glass stopped midair. Phone records, 3 years, I said, tapping the screen again. Marcus and I text logistics twice a month, nothing deeper. No career counsel, no apartment philosophy, no relationship sermons, nothing. I looked at Marcus. He stared at his hands. If I'm not good enough to call family, fine. Then stop using my name to impress your neighborhood audience. Stop cashing my effort as your currency with strangers. Mom's face emptied, then refilled with practiced offense. For 2 years, I've sent $500 monthly. Groceries, utilities, surprise bills, quiet deposits dressed as duty. I organized every gathering, booked tables, paid the overages. I'm done funding a script that erases me on cue. I set an envelope beside the cake and candles. Cash to cover tonight's bill, plus a generous tip, because I won't be accused of stinginess on the exit. The waiter exhaled like he'd been holding the room together. Marcus finally looked up. Emma, I didn't know about money. It's not the money, I said. It's the math. Subtract me in public, add me in private equals compliance. Sarah's hand found his. Something honest flickered behind her eyes. Mom reached for sympathy, the oldest prop in her theater. I'm a mother. My heart, she started, voice trembling. Your story, I said, keeps love behind a velvet rope. Access requires flattery, silence, me playing the ungrateful foil. Boundary, I continued, the word clean as a new key. No more monthly transfers. No more logistics, no more myth. If I'm not family, I won't bankroll one either. If I am family, stop rewriting me to fit. Uncle George nodded once, an accountant recognizing balanced numbers. Aunt Linda whispered, good, like a prayer permitted air. I slid my chair back, the gift bag ribbon brushed my wrist. I felt taller without anyone shrinking to make room. I turned to Marcus. Now you know. Do something honest. He swallowed. I will, he said, voice ragged but real. Mom opened her mouth. The room refused her cue. I walked toward the door and chose a different ending. In the quiet after, the real transformation finally began. The door closed behind me. The city exhaled with me. I walked home lighter, not happy yet, just unburdened. Silence met me like clean sheets and an open window. For the first time, I slept without rehearsing comebacks. Morning brought missed calls, texts, forwarded narratives from relatives. Emma's unstable, some said. Work stress, others offered, rehearsed. I did not correct them. I protected my energy. Explanation is a gift. They had already spent theirs. Therapy the next week, a chair angled toward my future. We practiced boundaries like reps, clear, kind, firm, repeat. I journaled dates, patterns, costs, then wrote new household rules. Truth over loyalty, boundaries over access, love over performance. The withdrawals surprised me. No Sunday calls, no fixer reflex. My hands twitched for calendars and apology bouquets, then stilled. In the quiet, I heard my life beginning properly. Meals tasted brighter when they weren't payment for acceptance. Marcus came by with coffee and unpracticed honesty. I never said those things, he began, eyes steady. I also never stopped her. I liked being the favorite. We sat with that sentence until it lost its teeth. I'm moving out, he said. Full-time job, night classes, accountability. Sarah squeezed his shoulder like a promise he could keep. I believed actions more than apologies. I told him so. We hugged as siblings, not characters from Mom's stories. Mom sent packages labeled forgiveness, wrapped in scented narratives and lace. I returned them unopened or donated them quietly. Receipt kept. Kindness may keep its distance from chaos and still count. Forgiveness is a window for me, not a door. Work felt lighter without the monthly draft of appeasement. Evenings stretched open. I filled them with friendships and oxygen. I learned the sound of a home that wants me. Its laughter at the sink and music without reviews. When relatives asked for the real story, I said less. Boundary, I answered. I wish everyone well. I'm done. Peace looked small from outside, enormous from the inside. It fit like clothes I finally bought in my size. If you've ever chosen peace over permission, I see you. Have you set boundaries with family who rewrote your worth? Tell me your story below. Your words might free someone. Subscribe to Echoes of Life for more betrayal stories and healing. I didn't win her approval. I won myself, and that was everything.